Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to deal with the lesson Silk Road by Nick Middleton. The narrator describes his journey to Mount Kailash. He wanted to travel to Mount Kailash to complete the Kora. Kora is the Tibetan word for revolution. It means circling a sacred object or place. There were many Kora sites around the world. One of them was Mount Kailash. Nick and his translator Daniel decided to take a shortcut to Mount Kailash. However, this involved a driving through several high mountain passes. Saturn, his guide, informed them that if there was no snow, then it would not be a problem. Their road led them to open paths. There were only gazelles and wild ass dotting the paths. As they traveled further, they came across drogbas or nomads tending to their flocks. The nomads would stare at the narrator's car. Their sheep would run away as the car came closer to them. They also passed the dark tents of nomads who lived in splendid isolation. Only a few of them had Tibetan mastiffs for company. The Mastiff is a species of Tibetan dog. They are described by the narrator as the great shaggy monsters, blacker than the darkest night. These Mastiffs were fearless. They ran directly at the vehicle, and Saturn was forced to swerve to avoid hitting. As the snow capped mountains approached, the ride became sharper and bumpier. From the icy plains, they traveled upward onto steeper slopes. The narrator could feel the pressure building in his ears. Suddenly, Saturn stopped. There was a large patch of snow lying in front of them. Daniel informed him that the snow was slippery and could cause the car to turn over. Nick watched as Saturn carried handful of dirt to cover the snow. Their next hurdle was even more dangerous. Saturn had to drive around the snow. Slowly they made their way up to 5,515 meter. A ring of rocks marked this stop. Such rock formations were usually holy sites. The men stopped and paid their respects according to tradition. Then they went down the slope of the pass marked by salt flats. Here there were men in sheepskin coats working with pickaxes. Then they came to the lake Mansarovar. The town of Hor was situated as at its shores. Saturn made them all get tea at Hor. Daniel left them to go to Lhasa. Nick and Saturn traveled on the Darchin. They were very close to Mount Kailash. That night, the narrator felt a sharp pressure in his chest. He also could not breathe through his nose. He sat up on his bed. This action made him feel slightly better. The narrator kept himself awake the entire night. He did not want to suffer from any further ill effects or quietly pass away in sleep. The next day, Saturn took him to Darchan Medical College. The doctor diagnosed it as pneumonia and prescribed medication. Saturn made sure that the narrator was all right. Then he left sickness and death were bad for his business. So the narrator was left alone. It was at this time that he met Norbu, another traveler who had come to perform Kora. They became good friends. The narrator decided that Norbu would be the ideal companion for the journey. Though Norbu was ill equipped as Nick to track the mountain, Norbu made up for it with his enthusiasm. Norbu could also speak Tibetan, which Nick felt would be useful during their journey. At the end of the story, Norbu and Nick decided to track Mount Kailash together. Thank you. Please subscribe the channel.